Hello, welcome to Kathaa Yaana. Today is 8th of March and the speciality of this day goes without saying. It is Women's Day. And what is so special about this year's Women's Day? It is about some meaningful discussions happening around the theme of this year's International Women's Day, which is Better the Balance, Better the World. We can have narratives of collective action, collective effort, and shared responsibility for driving a gender-balanced world. Balance is not a women's issue, it is a business issue. Gender balance is essential for economies and communities to thrive. I stumbled upon a beautiful small story written by the author Sean Mehta about a girl who asked why, challenging perceptions and debunking myths that people used to have about women in those days. And here is an adaptation of that story. Girls and women were mostly restricted to household work. They couldn't even dream of having the kind of opportunities that boys and men had. Around this time, there lived a girl by name Vidya. And Vidya was a very different one from other girls in her village. She had lots of questions in her mind, always. One day, her mother asked her to join her in the kitchen and learn to cook. Vidya asked, "Amma, why should I learn to cook?" To that the mother answered, "So that you can feed yourself when required." Vidya was convinced and she learned to cook. Another day, her mother asked her to join her and learn all the other household chores. Again, Vidya asked, "Amma, why should I learn the other household work?" To that, her mother replied, "So that you can be self-dependent." Vidya was convinced again and she learned all the other household chores. Then one day, her parents told her that they would be marrying her off very soon. Vidya again asked, "But why do you want to get me married?" To that the parents said, "Because all girls get married at this age." This time, Vidya was not convinced. She argued, "Everyone gets married at this age doesn't mean even I should. That is not a good enough reason. I don't want to get married now." Vidya's parents were surprised by her determination. Other parents would have forced the girl into marriage, but Vidya's parents didn't do so. Now Vidya had a lot of time with her. She wanted to channelize her time and energy into doing something meaningful, something productive and constructive. So she joined her father's academy and learned a lot of hymns and their meanings. She answered a lot of questions. She even asked a lot of questions and learned all the subjects with great commitment and in great depth. And very soon, she even surpassed her father in knowledge. One day, this academy received an invitation from the king of their land. The invitation was for the brightest scholar in the academy to attend a scholars' conference which was to be held at the palace premises. The king wanted to compile all the knowledge in the universe into books, and so to get the inputs, he was inviting scholars and philosophers from all over the world. Now there was a discussion in this academy about who to send to the conference. After a lot of discussion, they all agreed that Vidya is the brightest scholar in their academy and so she be sent to the conference. When Vidya came to the conference venue, she was taken aback. She saw a large number of men and hardly any women among the delegates. But Vidya kept calm and she proceeded towards the panel. Suddenly, there was an uproar in the audience. People began to stare at her and even making loud comments like, "A woman? Who thinks a woman can sit in the panel?" Another man said, "This is preposterous." Some other man said, "Do you look at her clothes? Does a woman of a good reputation wear such clothes?" Another man got up suddenly and pleaded to the king, "Your Majesty, kindly stop this lady. It will be against God if we let her into the panel discussion, please. The king thought for a moment and then spoke to Vidya. Dear lady, there is some misunderstanding. A woman cannot be allowed to sit in the discussion panel unless she is accompanied by a man. To that, Vidya said, Pardon me, Your Majesty, but I have been invited to join this discussion. The king was puzzled and he said, But I don't remember having invited you. To that, Vidya confidently answered, Your Majesty, you sent an invitation to our academy for the brightest scholar from our academy. I am the brightest in my academy. And moreover, there was nowhere written on the invitation that only male scholars are allowed. The king was very impressed and he said, Well, you have made a good point. I have no objection. Please proceed towards the panel. Then suddenly, a woman from the audience raised an objection. She said, But a woman cannot join this discussion panel. Vidya asked, But why, madam? Because you will not feel comfortable around so many men. Vidya said, I have no problem. My focus is my work, not men. Then an elderly person in the audience started giving her advice. You don't have to do this, young lady. You're not bad looking. You can marry some wealthy gentleman. Vidya ignored him and she went towards the discussion panel. As she reached the scholars panel, one elderly scholar asked her, So, by joining this discussion, what is it that you want to prove? That women are better than men? Fearlessly, Vidya replied, No, sir. I don't want to prove anything. I have just come here to participate in the discussion. I want to quench my thirst for knowledge like all of you. But greater knowledge is not for women, said the scholar. Why, sir? Because women have weaker intellect. Who says so, sir? It is written in our hymns. May I ask who wrote those hymns? It was written by our forefathers. By forefathers, you mean our male ancestors? Yes, of course, our male ancestors. How did they know? How did they know that female have weaker intellect than men? They noticed. But how, sir? Give me an example. How did they notice? I don't remember. Never mind. Why don't any of you esteemed scholars ask me a question to prove my weaker intellect? Many scholars thought of asking her questions, but seeing her immense confidence, thought the better of it. But this elderly scholar got so furious that he shouted at Vidya, Stop it, you girl! You are asking many questions. At this time, the king interrupted and said, Sir, please answer the lady's question. Why is a female's intellect weaker than men? To that the scholar said, Your Majesty, I need to study to come up with an example. To that the king said, Then I cannot stop this lady from attending the scholars' panel. She can sit inside the panel. She has come here on her own merit. I will allow her to be here until you have come up with a convincing example. People still had doubts on Vidya's worthiness. But as the discussions progressed, all doubts vanished. Days passed, Vidya took part in the discussions, asked many questions, answered many others. The scholars were astounded by Vidya's brilliance. When the final draft of the book was compiled, many of the compositions, many of the hymns that Vidya had composed were also included. This story echoes all the voices asking for equal, gender-balanced opportunities, gender-balanced representations across all arenas, whether academia, businesses, other professions, governments, and so on. let us strive for a better gender balance at our workplaces, in our homes, in our societies, so that we can make our world a little more better. Because better the balance, better the world. Here's Lakshmi wishing you a very happy Women's Day. See you all soon.